Hi everyone, welcome to episode 40 of the Quick Resume podcast. Today we're following up on the fallout of the Activision Blizzard acquisition, because boy has there been some tasty takes. PlayStation's stonks plummeted. Will Call of Duty go exclusive? And also, Banjo-Kazooie goes on Switch? What the hell's going on? We'll catch you on the other side. Thanks for coming, everybody. I hope you are having, or I guess had, a great weekend, because we usually upload this on a Monday. So, I hope you're feeling refreshed and only just a little bit depressed. My name's Deck. That's Tim.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm massively depressed.
Yeah, and we do the Quick Resume podcast, which if you haven't been here before, we talk about Xbox just a little bit, and obviously it's kind of inescapable because it's kind of a bit of a vacuum at the moment in terms of the discourse, because they fucking acquired Activision Blizzard and King, so you don't really have a choice really wherever you go. Nonetheless, here we are. Tim, how are we today?
I'm good, man. Yeah, I'm having a nice little. I've had a nice little chill weekend. I've been playing some new stuff during the week as well. Some things I didn't think I would be playing, I have to admit. Although I did think I said I was going to try out the Rainbow Six Extraction last week, but yeah, some new games added into the mix this week for me. One of which being the new Rainbow Six Siege Extraction that came out day one, Games Pass, by the way. So if anyone does feel like playing it, it's on Games Pass. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. No one ever buy it. It's yeah. I mean, I guess we can go into it a little bit now. It's not going to be like a topic earlier, but yeah, it's really. I mean, you haven't played this yet, have you? No, you haven't. It's it's really kind of. It's fine. It's a functioning game, sure. But it's pretty bland. I think the best way I can describe it is just it's very, very bland. There's really no meat and bones to it. Very standard progression, like leveling up your operators, unlocking new guns, and like just some passive abilities. Like that's it. Nothing spicy you haven't seen in a game like that before. Every single enemy type that's ever existed in Left 4 Dead or any game like that is basically copied and pasted here with a different skin on. And I'm not going to lie, I don't really feel like the Siege combat and gameplay actually benefits a PvE style game, personally. I think it's fine. And I've always said this, and after playing it, I think I absolutely back myself here. I think this game will be fun if you play it on like a crazy hard difficulty, and it's like you have to be like covert ops, stealth, make your way through the level flawlessly, and if you get seen or you get caught, shit goes wrong, shit goes sideways. I think that's the only way this game is kind of fun and fits that style of gunplay. Because you can't really run and gun with Siege gunplay. It's just not a thing. Like in Back 4 Blood, it's snappy, it's quick, it kind of works. In Left 4 Dead, it's that style of shooter. It's still basic shooting, but it's just different. It's snappier, it's quicker. Everything in Siege is so sluggish. Like there's animations to everything. So yeah. I played it with a mate. It's only 3-player as well, which I thought it was 4, which is kind of weird. But yeah, it's only 3-player. I played it with one other mate, and yeah, when we were stealthing through levels, it was kind of fun. It wasn't too bad. We had some repeated objectives already, multiple times, with after only 2 hours of gameplay. And there's some neat ideas in there, but overall, I think for me, it's like a 6 out of 10 package. That's my quick fire review.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I think it was very generous for it to be evening out around like 70, 75 or whatever it's on at the moment. I think it's going down from when I last saw it.
Yeah.
I think it's like low 70s now.
I mean, and the thing is, the worst thing is we've been saying this for months, and there was absolutely no surprises in terms of like how it turned out and like the critical reception and everything.
yeah, it's just so uninspired, and it's just like why? It was a fun little LTM, limited time mode for anyone who doesn't know, that they added to the game, and for whatever reason they decided to focus a lot of developer attention and create a separate product, charge a decent amount of money for it. Like there are games out there, another one which I played this week, that are cheaper than this and play so much better and have so much more to do, and it's cheaper as a base price. And this game also has the cheek to come in with a built-in microtransaction store, already packed with skins, like packed, brimming with skins, like, and you can tell this is where a lot of their work has gone into. And it's just, I don't know, man. It just feels like a fucking cash grab. I have to admit.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky, that, isn't it? Sort of seeing sort of full like microtransaction shops at launch on like full priced games. Yeah, I don't know, because I think I have to try and be consistent with sort of how I feel about that, because yeah, I get it's not a good look, but I guess it's that thing, isn't it, for like, you know, like games of service, like long-term games, you know, I guess something has to keep that going. But I mean, it's just not a good look, is it, to have a full I don't know. 'Cause I think of like some other games, like Sea of Thieves, for example. That was a full price game, and that obviously the intention there was to support that game for years and years and years, which they have done with free updates. And then eventually, like maybe 18 months down the line, they then added the microtransaction shop, because it just doesn't look good to sell a full price game to someone and then say, while you're at it, buy some skins, rather than it being in game. So maybe that's the right way to go about it. Maybe, I don't know.
I think so. I think it's worth seeing the reception and the longevity of the game and how people enjoy the grind, and then think maybe we can put skins in this or whatever. And it's not necessarily, it's a bad look to have a microtransaction store on release of a full price game, like you said. But the worst thing about it is you go in there and these skins are fucking clean, dude. Like, they have, a lot of work has gone into this, and I'm thinking more work has gone into this than the fucking game itself. Like, I'm looking at like a full like fire demon thermite skin that looks like insane, and it's like 20 quid, and I'm like, so much work has gone into this skin, and it's not in Siege, so like they made it for this game. Like, I just feel like more work has gone into it than that. Than the actual fucking development of the game. And that's what like triggered me even more. Like I went into a full on like foaming at the mouth, like triggered state. So it was, but it's fine, you know. For anyone listening, it's not a bad game. It's just uninspired, bland, and kind of boring. And I feel like it's a bit of a cash grab. But if you have Games Pass and a couple of friends, you might have a little bit of fun on it. If you've enjoyed Siege, you might have a little bit of fun on it. What I find really funny when I watched the IGN review on it, by the way, is IGN was just like, oh yeah, it's not bad, you know, because, you know, they've bought like the S+, like the amazing gun mechanics of Rainbow Six Siege, almost flawless shooting mechanics, into a PvE experience. And I was like, who out there thinks Rainbow Six Siege has flawless shooting mechanics?
A lot of
the
people
game's
do.
jank.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's really good. I just don't agree.
It's kind of clean to an extent if you're fucking just standing still, peeking around a corner. But if you're doing any form of like movement, the game's really, really sluggish. I feel like I'm fighting the controls all the time. I feel like it's really weird.
Maybe on PC.
I do not feel like it. Okay, yeah, mouse and keyboard, I can see it being a bit crispier, but I don't think it translates perfectly to console. But yeah, so yeah, hop on out on Games Pass. I don't recommend buying it. And then the other one I was playing was Fireteam Elite, which has been out for a little while. That's on Games Pass too. I just decided to hop on it on a whim with a friend, because we weren't going to play Extraction. We decided to play that instead. It's good fun. I actually quite liked it. It's a really nice setting. Like the space, alien, sci-fi shooter. The guns all sound like really cool and awesome, just how they do in the movies. The whole aesthetic of it's pretty good. Again, it doesn't do anything to reinvent the genre. All the enemy types are the same and everything you've seen. But it's got a nice xenomorph skin on it, which is quite nice. And I actually think the way they do like the skills and like the modification of the skills and buffs is actually quite neat. It's kind of like a grid, like old style like RPGs where you have to like fit stuff into your inventory based on like blocks, like 4 blocks. This is 2 blocks, and you move everything around and you like shift it. It's like playing Tetris. Like that's like your skill grid, and you like drag and drop things on, and you place it on the left if you want to modify your left skill and your right skill, and you like try and make shit fit and like customize and throw different things in there. I found that was quite neat actually. I quite like that.
It's kind of cool.
And yeah. Overall, it was a pretty decent experience. Prefer it to Extraction. And apart from that, I haven't really been playing too much else. A bit Halo with the new event, which is good fun. But yeah, I feel like I've yabbed on a lot about my catch up just because I've been playing new games for once.
Yeah, no, it's good.
So how's your week been, man?
Yeah, it's been good. I've just been sort of going, been playing Halo here and there. I very almost queued into sort of ranked yesterday because I'm wanting to play that a bit more, but I decided against it. I just figured
solo queue.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just figured I'll wait. I'll be able to rope someone in eventually.
I'd always be up for it if you sent me a message. I know I was playing Apex last night, but I'd be up for it if you sent me a message.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I figured I'll spare my sanity and not so like you into ranked. But yeah, like you said, doing sort of the event, which has obviously the new game mode, which is attrition. So for those who haven't played it, it's kind of like a life bank sort of game mode. I think you start with 8 aside, and then once that's out, you stop respawning, but you can be revived for your last sort of death. And honestly, I think it plays quite well. Actually, I think it plays quite well into Infinite's maps. Because I think generally the map like times in Infinite are really good in that you're kind of you're in a game and out of the game, but they can be quite intense just because the maps are very small. If we're talking like a Team Slayer, they can be quite intense. You're usually gunfighting like 60% of the game, which I feel like is higher than most shooters. Maybe even more. And because you have a limited bank of lives, not only does it have that effect of slowing down people's gameplay, but as the game goes on, it gets slower and slower because people start being more careful with their lives. So yeah, I just think that slower sort of play actually does suit Halo quite well, and I'm excited to see in the achievement, we've spoken about this before, there's another game called Elimination where it says revive through teammates in elimination or something. Presumably that's all the way to the other end where it's like just one life respawns all the time, which I like. I want to play that as well, so I don't know if we'll get to play that next week or if this is something they have further down the line. I don't know. I think the files from having a look at some of the people I follow on Twitter, it looks like it might be King of the Hill next week.
Okay.
So I'll have to wait and see.
I've never been a big fan of King of the Hill game modes, but I'll give it a go. But I've never been a huge fan of them. They always very spammy, very spammy.
Well, yeah. From what I've read, this is the weird thing. From what I've read online, a lot of the Halo bubble prefers King of the Hill to like Strongholds.
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, I guess it is more of a classic, right? Like that sort of stuff's been in competitive arena shooters for a long time. King of the Hill, it's like a staple of that kind of old school arena shooter. So you saw them all the time on previous Halos. So yeah. I guess maybe that's why. But I'm not a huge fan. I mean, they're fine. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I find most of the time you're just exploding. Like that's it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same camp. It's fine. I think overall I prefer the idea of Strongholds where you have to keep moving. And King of the Hill is very much kill a person, get into zone, and then 3 grenades fall on your head and you explode. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's a deeper strategy that I'm missing. Maybe you're supposed to like dip in and then rotate out. I'm not sure. But yeah, that supposedly that's the thing that might happen. Obviously, don't take my word on it, but from what I've seen on the people I follow that like do follow the code and everything like that, that seems to be the case. And hopefully these game modes stay as well, because I know that's what the team at 343 have said, that that's what they wanted to do: introduce game modes with events and then leave them in after the event, which I think is a great idea. Just hopefully that's what ends up happening, and they don't get scared off by, you know, a decreasing player count and stop adding games.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I hope this game mode becomes permanent. This attrition one, because I actually agree. I think it's probably one of my favorite game modes in Halo Infinite right now. I've had a really good time on it. Like right from the get go, I actually said like the pacing just felt really nice, and I just really liked it. I don't know if they need to do anything with like reses, like in a similar fashion to how like Destiny does it, where, you know, like you can, like you get like a little shield if you res someone, or the guy coming in has a little shield so he doesn't get spawn killed that much. I think you said the guy being respawned does have a little shield.
They seem to. Something happens. I don't know if it's like just flat, you know, a second of invincibility, or if it's like an overshield. I like a rapidly decaying overshield. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, having said that, I'm not sure, because I always felt like Destiny reses were a bit busted. Like I felt like it was a bit dumb that you could kind of chain reses and like keep getting away with it just because everybody got overshields from doing that. So
yeah,
I'm not sure. I need to play a bit more.
Yeah. But I did really like it, and I do hope they keep it. So, but yeah, moving on.
But I just wanted to say, because the event track was really cool as well. It's probably one of the best so far.
Oh yeah. I actually thought we might go into that a little bit later.
Oh sure, yeah, let's do it.
But I mean, no, we can talk about it now. I don't know if you had a topic for it, but
no, not really. Just other than the stuff that's kind of cool. Obviously, the stuff's in the store. It's cool. We spoke about the store changes last week, and they came through it. It's like a flat, 50% decrease. But on all of that,
it's loads. Yeah, I mean they've like credit where credit's due for a free to play game. In the last week or two, they've now announced not only have store prices decreased, like you said, quite substantially, to the point everything is a pretty generous price now. Like you're still spending money, a fair bit of money, but it's not like outrageous. And then they also said that you might be able to start earning premium credits just through playing the game now. I don't know if that's through the Battle Pass, similar to how Apex does it, and it will start next season, or if they're going to bake it into the game somehow. But that's pretty generous for a free-to-play title to do all that when this is their only revenue.
and non-expiring Battle Passes as well.
And non-expiring Battle Passes. It's pretty generous.
It's just it's just a shame that this first season is a bit slow. But yeah, like you said, credit to them. They did. Nice. Jerry Hook confirmed on Twitter that credits will be earnable in Season 2's Battle Pass. So yeah.
So it is that.
And we don't know, obviously, like the specifics of that. If it's like, because usually most games that use this model have like half of them in the free track and then half of them in the premium track. So you have to buy it to get enough to get the full thing back. We also don't know the amount of credits that will be earnable in it. Like we don't know if you'll get enough to buy another Battle Pass. But from what I've seen, the sentiment online for this was really positive, and especially positive because Battle Passes don't expire. So the fact that you could like be a couple of credits short, go back into a couple of seasons and start working on that one, and then start adding credits. You could feasibly come back to Halo in like 2 years' time, or get an Xbox Series S in 2 years' time and be like, whoa, look at there's like 6 season passes here. I can just work through these to get credits, and then I have enough to buy next season's Battle Pass. You know? So makes awesome. That quite bold. Yeah, I think that's what makes that quite good value in the long run. It is good. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. While we're on the topic, I guess we'll just get Halo out of the way. BTB is still fucking broken, and I'm kind of at the end of my tether with this now, because I think there was a real good opportunity to like sort of squanch That's not a word.
Squanch.
That's not a word.
That's from Rick and Morty. It's fucking squanch.
Okay, yeah,
Squash.
Squash kind of all of that kind of like that negativity that was kind of rolling because store changes were coming out. We had a new game mode. We had a good event pass that looked really good. Just lots of positive news. And then they rolled out the B2B fix, and it had like a very very mild improvement, but
barely.
And they said like within the next 12 hours after confirming that the feedback, the like sort of telemetry they're getting from that is looking positive for the next fix, but it's like, this can't still be happening. It's just really irritating because I feel like every week that goes by with this happening is a week that we're not going to be able to get people back on for big team battle, even if it's just for a game or two, like not to sit there and grind out for hours, but just like, hey, we're all bored, we're all sitting here, let's go play some VTP and have a laugh. And people are just going to be like, I don't know, I've kind of moved on, and it's like, for God's sake. And like we said this before, people will probably come back in like later seasons, but because the next season is season 2, like we're looking at May, and it's like, well, actually, I still kind of want to play Halo, and I'd like to play it with my friends, but my friends, understandably, are losing engagement because it's just taking so long. So yeah, that's that.
It's really annoying. And I've had some of my funnest moments in the whole of 2021 playing BTB. It was absolutely brilliant. You can go back to like previous episodes that we posted when this game first came out and stuff like that, and oh my god, there was like 10 of us in a party, all just fucking pissing ourselves with laughter.
Yeah.
Or just straight sweating it and just like winning a game in like 2 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
And just memeing, like flying on like wasps and taking the flag and driving people back, or all of us hopping inside of one of those Razorbacks and just...
Yeah.
I mean, inevitably we just all explode, but it's just hilarious and just... I don't know, man. It seems like such a long time ago. It almost feels like a different game.
Yeah.
I almost feel like that BTB I played was a different game. Like, I just feel like it doesn't exist anymore in this title.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. It's horrible, man. They really need to fix it.
I know. I know. And it's not like, we've said this before, it's not like they're not working on it. And, they had the holiday period and the break, and, they had a big push to release the game early. That's fine. I think, they must have been really confident that the game was like, ship shape. So, and they had a strike force like working on it over the holiday period. Obviously, were unable to come to a full solution until this week. But yeah, like I said, that's the way I would describe it. I'm getting to the end of my tether with this thing being down because arenas can be quite sweaty, and a lot of times people don't want to come on and play that. And not to mention the complete like fuckery it's had on the challenge system, because they said that for the next week or two, while they like really I'm assuming they don't want this to happen again. So while they really make sure it's hammered and nailed down, they're going to remove BTB challenges from the pool, which is like, I can't believe it's coming to this. So it's just a bit irritating. Obviously, like the majority of the game, it's like still there and it's still fine, but it's working. But this is a particular mode where we have like a friend group which is usually larger than 4, and I just feel like that there's been a missed opportunity here. There's been a missed opportunity, I think, to have us keep dipping back in. Having said that, I know some of our friends were getting wound up with BTB anyway, so we shouldn't have like rose-tinted glasses, because limited map pool and all of that. But
of course, it's not the sort of thing we played for 6-7 hours straight. No, but it's something we hopped on and had a good time with and stuff like that. So, and we've gone to other titles now as our default for that sort of thing, where we would be sharing the space with Halo Infinite. But it's got 0% of our attention for big party games now. So,
yeah, quite irritating. I mean, hopefully they get some stuff out. It sounds like they're doing some really good work internally on taking in feedback, adjusting the store prices and the credits and stuff like that. And who knows for season 2? I know they've mentioned about like rethinking the challenge system, and which I'm fine with them just kind of trimming down. Like I don't know what they plan on doing. And to be honest, the feedback is so scattershot because you either get like Halo purists who just want like a clone of a Halo 3 system or a clone of a Reach system. You know, and it's so the feedback's all over the place, but I'm okay with challenge systems as long as there's just less shit ones. That just needs to be trimmed down. So we'll see. Maybe that will change for the next season as well as where I was going with that. So you'll have to see. Okay, cool. Is there anything anything else you wanted to touch on about Halo before we move on?
No, I think that's pretty much covered everything Halo. I think for this week, maybe.
Cool. Yeah, cool. No, that's fine. So the only other thing I wanted to touch on, in terms of what I've been playing, was I just started Hitman, the Hitman trilogy. I'd mentioned last week that I was going to start. I was quite excited to start playing next. It's coming to Games Pass, which was really good timing for me because I just wrapped up a couple of like games. So, like I said, I finished the Outer Wilds DLC, and I played through like sort of the prologue and the first like the training levels or whatever tutorial, and then I did the first 2 levels, which, by the way, I will add, I think the way they've done this is very good. It's like, so the Hitman 3 launcher now has all of the Hitman games combined into one, but Hitman 1 and 2 have had like because they've kept like the same structure throughout all the games. They've just like given all the games from Hitman 1 and 2 are like a graphical overhaul, and like they've kept in the mechanic, they've pulled in the mechanics from Hitman 3, so it just feels like you're playing a really long extended version of Hitman 3.
Nice.
Which I think is really cool. But and there's like, one overlaying interface for the whole thing. I think it was done quite well. But my experience so far has been like mixed to good. I don't know. I was expecting kind of a bit more like immersive simminess from Hitman, but it's less that. It's very well thought out, but I'm not sure how well it's going to continue to click with me, because I had a good time in the first level, which was like this massive fashion show, and they're like, 2 really rich people who are really influential, whatever. And there's this whole, underground, like, dark political cabal story going on as well. And that was really cool. And they were like, in these things, there are so many different ways you can like eliminate the targets. And most of them involve like following story threads in the level so that you can do things. Like one of them, I didn't fully figure it out, but one of them in the first level in the fashion show was to become like one of the people who go on the catwalk, because they looked really similar to you. And I was like, wow, I'm interested to see how that kind of played out. That would have been fun. Anyway, and that mission was quite good. Got to the end of it, popped them both and got out. And then the second one was like this big villa, like in Italy, and it was like this massive villa, like an island. And it was just so big that it was like, I killed one target and it was really cool. Like poisoned a champagne glass, got rid of her, easy peasy. Yeah, it was great. And then after that, I just got lost, and I was just going around in circles and circles and circles because I just couldn't figure out like where, even because the place was just so big. I don't know. Maybe it was just like that level, but man, I was on it for so long, and I was like, I am so bored. I cannot figure out, because the one guy I was like meant to be killing would just like go back and forth between 2 points with like a convoy of bodyguards around him, and it's like, well, I can't do anything. And yeah, it just got really, really boring. Eventually I figured out, I like kept exploring, and like on the side of an island there was like a little attachment to the island, and there was like ruins, and there was a cannon there, and I found a cannonball, and I found gunpowder, and I fucking launched a cannonball at him, and that was actually a really like satisfying way to kill him, because I could not figure out how to do it, and it had this direct like shot on him. Anyway, that was really cool. So yeah, it's kind of mixed to good. I just think it's weird that it's not immersive simmy, and I think I was expecting it to be like, kind of Dishonored, and that you have this toolbox of stuff that you use, and that kind of creates layers and layers of stuff of how kind of that interacts with the world. But the games kind of encourage you to, like, you figure out how to complete the missions by exploring rather than by being creative. And I think that's like the difference in what I was expecting. Like you have to go to these different points to find a story thread to be like, oh, this is how I can like become a chef, and then I can take a shit in the soup and that'll kill him. Stuff like that, rather than like, oh, I've got this list of things and I can just try to be creative to take out my target. So I guess, I'm going to try another couple of levels and see how it goes. And then I'll report back next week. But yeah, it's like mixed to good.
Yeah, just sounds a bit too daunting. It's that classic, like, it's like when you hop into a massive RPG, and it's just like you got like 10 side quests, you got like 50 different directions to go, and then you got the main story, and you just feel like it's wasted potential if you don't do one of the 50 things it's given you. So I know, kind of like there's just too much going on.
Yeah, it is that a little bit, but it's also the sense that like just the design of the missions is more like for most of these guys, like I couldn't just walk up to the target and pop a gun in their head and leave, because for reasons X, Y, and Z, like
would you really want that though?
No, I guess not. It's just I would like it to be a bit more creative than. It's hard to say, our sample size is too small.
Yeah.
I like, but like because what they do at the end of the level, they like show you this massive grid of like all of like the story threads that have happened, and the ones light up showing you the ones that you hit, which I think is really like cool. To be honest, I like when games show me my missed decisions. I like that. Otherwise it's easy to feel like an illusion. But fuck, there's so many of them. There's like 40 per level, and it's like I don't understand how I wandered around this level for like 45 minutes and didn't find any of this. Like, so that really confused me. So I was like, because yeah, like I said, maybe it was just that second level and the design of it and the way things were distributed. But like, because the first kill I got, like I said, I poisoned the champagne. I was just exploring, and like the game signposted me from thing X to Y to Z until I came to that conclusion, and then that was something, and that felt really good. But after that, I didn't have anything like that. I felt, and that was just really frustrating because I couldn't even end the mission if I wanted to, even if it was a sloppy kill. Like I just couldn't. I had to like go out my way to like look, and it just took ages. So that's frustrating.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to have. It's a hard balance between having too much hand holding and none, right? Like sometimes you need a little bit of a nudge, just to be like, why don't you go to the bar and have a drink, sort of thing. Just nudge you just a little bit, to the point where, like you said, you just got frustrated because you feel like you have, and you have so many options, but you're not finding any, and you're thinking, am I just fucking dumb? Like, what's going on? Has the game glitched? I don't know. You're just like, you're just in like limbo. You're in this horrible limbo, and you just don't know. So I do kind of get where you're coming from.
And I think it would have been nice because like there's like a map and like a corner map as well, and it's just like mostly useless. And I just feel like it would be nice if there was just like giant question marks, in areas, just doesn't have to tell me exactly where things are, but just like there's a point of interest here. And because from when I was looking through the map, I was like trying to look to see if I'd missed anything or if there were somewhere I can go to maybe have a look at leads, but there was nothing like that, and it was just left me a bit lost for a while. And because the game's quite slow, like, you mostly walk everywhere and you can jog, but it takes ages to go from point A to point B. And you have to like, not get spotted, and like make sure, like some places you need to be like, you need to either have a card for clearance or you need to be dressed as the appropriate person to be late. So it's like, it's not an easy thing going from point like to explore is actually a bit of a nuisance unless you have like a goal in mind. So that, I think all of that combined together just made that a bit frustrating. And maybe it was, at several points I was considering, shall I just restart this mission? Because like maybe I've just come like a dumb way. But after the first kill, I thought I hadn't. But anyway, I'll try the next few levels and see how it goes. Maybe this just wasn't for me, which I think would be a bit weird because I like IO as a studio and I know these games are really well received. But maybe this isn't what I thought it would be. So I'll have to see.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah, keep us posted.
Yeah, that's pretty much it though. I did play like the opening, maybe 45 minutes, an hour of Nobody Saves the World, which has reviewed pretty well. I think it's on an 80 at the moment, which is great from Drinkbox, devs of Guacamelee. So I think those guys make really sick games. And I liked what I played so far. It was like a lot heavier on like the RPG elements than I thought it would be. Like, it's like most of the game is driven by completing challenges and leveling up. There are even doors that like don't let you through until you hit a certain level, and you literally have a scroll on the side of the screen that's like complete these challenges. and so
Okay.
which I wasn't expecting, but it works surprisingly well. So yeah, I liked how it felt so far. It's quite funny, and it's got this very like charming sort of vibe to it. So yeah, that seems quite fun so far. I'll probably play that again, if not just for the achievements soon.
I'm not sure if we said this. Is it only single player?
No, it does have co-op. We did have that epiphany
Yeah,
last week. Yeah, but it's, from what I've checked, it seems to be like host and guest co-op. So
lame.
Yeah, a bit lame.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it for our weeks, I suppose. So I mean, let's address, I suppose, the giant skyscraper-sized elephant in the room, which is which is of course the follow-up to sort of the Activision Blizzard acquisition. Whew, we did. If you haven't seen, well, if you haven't seen already, we did an emergency meeting earlier in the week, to sort of react to this and have a quick chat about this. So go and have a look at that if you kind of are interested in reactions. But other than that, this is going to be an ongoing story. Obviously, if you think about the amount of conversation that the Bethesda acquisition got, this is going to be like that, but worse, and for longer. So I think I've got several news stories here sort of pertaining to this and relating to it, not only relating to follow-ups on the acquisition itself, but to the ripple it's had on the industry and kind of like sort of commentators as well. So I think, firstly, and probably most importantly, because we weren't sure on these details before, but it seems that Bobby Kotick is due to leave after the deal has gone through, which I know has been like a sore spot for a lot of people.
Hallelujah.
But also, yeah, there is a good thing. I think, it's
dick.
It's sore for some people because, somebody like this is going to get away with like a 10 billion package, and they're already like
true
in the 300 millionaire range. Do you know what I mean? So that is annoying for people. That I guess it's more the feeling that justice isn't going to be served. But nonetheless, I think this is one of those, if there's anything you can take away from like this whole acquisition, regardless of how you feel about kind of mergers, acquisitions, consolidation, monopolies, general capitalism, is that not having a prick in charge is probably going to be good. We can probably trust Phil Spencer, who has like a proven track record of being a pretty good dude and like being quite inclusive and diverse in the company. Yeah. Of being a better leader than Bobby Kotick. So, if there's anything, we can at least be thankful that the welfare of these people is probably going to be improved.
Exactly. At the end of the day, we've got these guys under our wing now, and we've removed the cancerous tumor that is that man. And I guess that's one way to put it.
That is one way to put it.
Because he's a fucking penis. But yeah, no, there is that whole. You kind of wish something worse happens to someone like that. But hey, I'm not one to dispense law and justice. So.
Yeah, exactly. Although you should be.
Although when the sun goes down, I do put on a costume and try my damnedest to keep Felbridge clean.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good. Good for you, dude.
Thanks.
You're fighting the hard fight, and that's what counts. Okay. Yeah, so fuck, where was I going with this? So I haven't got this on the notes, but I would say it just prompted me. Raven Software have officially unionized. And I know there's been like a lot of talks about like unionizing in the games industry because it hasn't really happened, and this is the first instance of a team in the games industry unionizing ever. Because
oh wow,
and I really am not entirely clued up on the whole ins and outs of unionizing, but obviously what this means is that the team had been in conversations for a while about creating a union to protect themselves, to have someone to represent them towards the company and the organization, and they've officially they've done that now. So considering the expected time of closure on the deal is like June 2023, or like that's the latest. it makes sense that they, it's not like they would have seen this acquisition last week and been like, should we just stop? Should we just stop? They're still going to be under Kotick for a while, and there's still going to be a lot of people in, Activision Blizzard is like, thousands and thousands and thousands. There's still going to be people in there who are going to be causing issues, whether that's management or HR, whatever it is. So, the unions, I think, are useful regardless until all of this kind of is tackled at a higher level. So, yeah, it's just worth pointing out that was something that happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so into sort of the more platformy stuff. This was really interesting. So allegedly, Activision Blizzard, it's since come out, approached Microsoft. What was it? They had, I think it was something like Microsoft had spoken to them about a potential acquisition like last year, and they said nah. And then as the year came to an end and the stonks got lower and lower, they offered to EA. And they offered to someone else. I don't think it was you. Maybe Take-Two. They both said no, and then they ended up coming back to Microsoft, who of course took the deal. So I just think it was quite funny that Activision Blizzard wanted to sell. Well, I mean, everybody who gets acquired wants to sell. It's like a hostile takeover. But you know what I mean? Like if they initiated it, it's not like it wasn't the other way around. Which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is quite interesting. And I mean, was there anything in the news about us approaching Activision like a while back then? I seem to... I can't remember anything about Xbox dipping their toes in for a potential acquisition in the past with these guys.
What, for Activision? No, that was not known information.
Oh, okay. It was just completely private, yeah. Because I know there was like beats and potential around like Ubisoft, wasn't it? That we were looking into like Ubisoft, but then suddenly this just came out of nowhere, which was kind of crazy. Okay, yeah, no, it is very interesting that they approached Xbox.
Yeah, because I think it gives a whole other angle to kind of the that angle of like, oh, Xbox is just trying to like corner the market and like kill their competition. It's like, well, I mean, there's something to be said about it, which we will get into. But considering they wanted to sell and nobody else wanted to sell, like,
but like, do you not find it interesting that they never went to Sony? Why didn't they never go to Sony for a potential acquisition? If they tried EA and they tried who else that you said? What was the other one you said? Sony just not big enough, really?
No, Sony. Activision Blizzard's net worth is like the same as Sony's. Sony's like PlayStation, should I say? Not Sony. I think, but I remember seeing this stat.
It's relatively close, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing this stat somewhere that it's like $70 billion. Like PlayStation's worth is $70 billion, and Xbox just like they can't and like people have been saying that Sony are going to look to might be looking to. That's not true. Sony should look to do something, and again, there's this whole argument of back and forth. Do Sony need to do like a counterpunch to this? And they would just do that by lending money, essentially, or, borrowing money because they can. And because they just, the fact of the matter is Sony just aren't on the same level as Microsoft. And that's not even me being a little fan bitch. Yeah. It's just a matter of fact. Microsoft have been around and they do stuff with Office that can afford them. They're in the trillion, they're $1 trillion company. I think they've gone back up to being the most profitable industry in the world. So we're obviously it's apples to oranges with the comparison, but yeah, that's why Sony PlayStation straight couldn't afford it.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so something else that came out this week that was kind of interesting was our boy Philly Cheesesteak, Phil Spencer, said that he wants to let Activision work on older IP, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I wanted to have a look at... because I think last week we did sort of discuss some of those older IP, and I think, I'm not too familiar with the suite of Activision IP, other than what we've already discussed, like the big stuff like Spyro and Crash and Tony Hawk. But there's a couple of like interesting ones in there for a couple of reasons. Firstly is Sekiro. But there's like some funniness with that because Activision did publish it, but I'm not sure if like the licensing is owned by, if like the IP is owned by Activision or by From Software.
Oh, okay.
So
That is interesting.
yeah, because I could imagine that being something that Xbox would want to leverage to, you know, when PlayStation inevitably gets to Bloodborne 2, you know, it's going to happen one day.
Yeah.
Where Xbox contracts them out to make a Sekiro 2, you know, but I don't know if,
Yeah.
like I said, if FromSoft have the rights to that, maybe that won't happen, or maybe that would just end up being a multi-plat again, so who knows. And then there's
Sekiro
also
2 being exclusive would be huge.
Yeah, and then if you remember back in the day, Activision actually used to make all of the like all of those older Spider-Man games, you know, where it's Web of Shadows or what was the cartoony one? The one that we used to play.
Ultimate Spider-Man something.
Oh yeah. Ultimate Spider-Man, yeah, those like Venom as well. Those games and like Marvel Ultimate Alliance, they're all Activision games.
Yeah.
So like those are some interesting IPs that just come to my mind. But nonetheless, you know, we had this conversation when we had the reaction that someone's got to work on these games, Phil. Hopefully it's going to be those Call of Duty teams. But, you know, I think this is great. I think this is great that some of that IP can be revisited. But at the same time, I'm already pissed off that Xbox isn't tapping into their own IP. So, like, like we're still quite far away from a Fable. That's taken long enough. But then there's like, you know, a lot of the older IP that they own, even through Rare, you know, like Banjo-Kazooie. And I'm sure there's I know people have been asking for like a Viva Pinata, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like they're already sitting on a gold mine of IP. And now this just turns it into a diamond mine, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Were you talking about just getting potentially some of the studios that, for example, works on like Spyro and Crash to potentially help or take up a mantle of an Xbox IP like Viva Pinata or something like that? But I mean, we already own the studios that make those anyway, unless they're like just supporting the making of like a new Viva Pinata or a new Banjo-Kazooie. But yeah,
who knows, man?
Yeah,
I think. I mean, one of the ones I've seen a lot of people talk about, because this is weird. Like, because a lot of like of old Activision used to be. Like had a lot of integration with like id, article id, which is obviously now owned under Bethesda, which Xbox now owns as well. And one of those games was something called Hexen. Now I know there's probably going to be people listening to this podcast that are going to be like rolling their eyes right now because we're like dirty little millennials. But like I didn't know about Hexen until I heard other people speak about it. But Hexen was essentially like a medieval Doom. With like spells and swords and, you know, magic. And I watched some gameplay of it, and, you know, it very much does look like that. But it looks fucking cool. And like, if, you know, supposedly, and it has like a very like Dark Souls-y feel in terms of like the design and the kind of you know, like structure of the progression and everything. And I think that it kind of got me thinking. I was like, wow, you know, a first-person shooter with like the lifted bonfire mechanics and like soul mechanics of a Souls game would actually be really cool.
Yeah, that would be pretty fucking cool. Yeah,
I feel like that would just work really well.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of, what was it, Hexen?
Yeah, that's right.
Hexen. Yeah, I've never heard of it, but yeah, I mean, if that can be adapted to be like that sort of first-person. High fantasy spells and swords fucking RPG, that could be awesome. But then like I don't know, we've already got games like Avowed like that coming up. I mean, Avowed might not be a Dark Soulsy type game, sure, it might not go down that difficulty route, like, but it's a very, very similar setting, I guess.
Yeah, well, I guess it's important to just clarify that Hexen was more, from what I've seen, it was more like it was shooty. It was shooty. It's not like it's like Doom. It's like Doom, except instead of guns, you have like staffs that fire out like lightning bolt projectiles and swords that you swing, and like green fire comes out. Like shit like that.
Oh, so it's not actually like melee combat.
Not really.
It's still sort of ranged and still
mostly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I mean there is that, and obviously there are other things like Guitar Hero, as well.
Cool.
Starcraft. I know nothing about Starcraft. Do you know anything about Starcraft?
No, not really. It's not a MOBA, is it?
No.
Is it a MOBA?
No, I'm pretty sure it's a.
No, it's not. It's like an Age of Empires type game, isn't it? It's like an RTS.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like RTS. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of it, and I know it's popular and people like it, but no, I've never actually never played it. I have seen gameplay of it, though.
Yeah, I know.
It's pretty cool.
I know there's a lot of love for that IP, and yeah, it's like kind of Space Marine-y, I think, from what I understand. But like kind of World of Warcrafty as well, like in the sense that it's kind of like classical fantasy, with some sci-fi in there.
Yeah,
that's kind of my
it's like loads of factions and all that sort of thing. Yeah, I think it's very much Warhammer in space RTS, Warhammer Space RTS thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then something like Prototype as well was something we looked at, which was a bit of a fun one.
Wow. Yeah, I always actually had quite a lot of respect for those kind of games. I thought they were pretty cool. I thought those sort of games were probably. I feel like under a good studio, a game like that could thrive quite nicely. Not that they were poorly made previously. I do think obviously the tech and just the generation they were built in held it back a bit as well. But a game like that definitely has potential to be pretty cool. It could be like Xbox's like Infamous, like on a similar level, because I feel like they're quite similar style games.
Yeah, if only Xbox had another open world sort of game that definitely hasn't been butchered and doesn't have Terry Crews in it.
Oh, freaking Crackdown! Terrible job with that third one. But hey, I don't know if it's a dead IP. Just because you have a bad installment, I don't think Crackdown's just dead forever. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to come back from that.
Look, with what we've just spoken about, with all of the IP that Xbox is now sitting on, I can't see any good reason to put a team on a Crackdown 4. Like, there probably is some universe where you can make an argument for it, but not in the same universe when we've got Bethesda and Activision under Xbox as well. So yeah,
I think at this point they're probably better off just giving a complete remake over to like Crackdown 2, just building that on a new engine. Yeah. I actually think that's probably a better way to revitalize the series than doing a Crackdown 4.
I just want the whole thing rebooted, man. If they did it, I just want the whole thing. That's what I was expecting 3 to be. They went for this whole like kind of, let's make it like the old ones, and it's like nobody wants that. like keep the fundamental like elements of the like design, like orbs, and that you level up, but other than that, don't make it janky climbing buildings, because that was never the like highlight of the game. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's such a missed opportunity, but whatever. Okay, but there was a Prototype 2.
Yeah, I played it.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of worse than the first one. It was okay. They're okay games. They definitely fulfill that. They kind of like fulfill that power fantasy that I think a lot of players would like, because they literally just set you loose on a city and you just have like crazy alien powers and you can just kind of do whatever you want. Similar to how Crackdown sort of fulfilled that power fantasy for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I do think something like that could be pretty cool. And like I said, it's very similar to something like Infamous, which is pretty big on PlayStation. I think it's actually one of their biggest IPs, to be honest.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
I'm surprised they haven't done another Infamous actually, because Second Son was really quite popular. So I'm surprised they haven't got another one announced.
Who's the developers for Infamous? Because if it's
Can't
Insomniac,
remember.
you know why.
I can picture their logo. Was it Insomniac? Infamous.
Because I was going to say the answer is basically just Spider-Man. Like that's why there's not another Infamous.
Sucker Punch.
Oh, Sucker Punch. So same team that did
Sucker Punch.
Ghost of Tsushima. Sucker Punch and Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, so they're still pretty cozy. They're cozy with PlayStation. I'm surprised they haven't done that.
They're part of PlayStation. So
yeah,
cozy. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really see a space for Infamous while they're churning out Spider-Man, to be honest. But
yeah, I guess so. They are.
They
are different in their own ways.
They are, of course, but like they've got the de facto open world IP that you could ever have. Like, you know, it's just like, I don't know. Unless they took like a big break from Spider-Man, or they're like, we're done with Spider-Man as a character now. We'll move on to like a different character, like in the Marvel universe, if that's what they're going to do.
Well, yeah, you're going to be swinging around with Wolverine claws,
of course, in
a year or two. How about stretchy Wolverine claws?
It's horrible. Yeah, so I mean, I guess like on the other side of this isn't just the Activision stuff, but it's the Blizzard stuff as well. You know, and yeah. I think that's probably the part that we're in agreement that is arguably the most exciting part, because Blizzard do quality games, and I've always like quite liked their style as well. And in general, it's absolutely fucking mental. Like I'm looking at like just the stuff that they make now. It's like it's crazy to think that Blizzard is under Xbox now. That kind of blows my mind. And that's really the side of this acquisition which kind of I feel is the most exciting to me. You know, we've said before that like Overwatch is something we've put a lot of time into in the past. Hearthstone is something we've put a lot of time into in the past. World of Warcraft is something I've always wanted to get into, but I just don't really play on PC. You know, a port of that to Xbox with obviously bundle the subscription package into Games Pass, I'm raising an eyebrow. Like, you know, so I think all of this stuff is really exciting to me, especially on the Blizzard IP front.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, nothing's more exciting for me than Winston being the new face of Xbox.
God, we can only hope.
The new mascot, Winston. Yeah. Master Chief just takes off his helmet and it's Winston. The whole time. Yeah, no, obviously it's very exciting. I mean, Overwatch 2 is a weird one for me though. I don't know why there's an Overwatch 2 still, and everyone's just kind of the same but a little bit older. I don't know my vibe on that game right now. It's a little bit weird, but we love the first one. Some of the crispiest shooting and team play and character designs I've ever played in a game, to be honest. So that's pretty damn hype. And yeah, I think I would 100%, mate, if they threw like Hearthstone into Games Pass, that'd be so sick. And it perfectly fits Games Pass too, because it's just upsell, right? It's just a game where they're like, here's a little starter deck and people playing against each other and all that kind of shit, and you play online. And
well, Hearthstone is free, isn't it?
Packs. Yeah, it's free, yeah. But like, it just, like, those games just go perfectly into Games Pass. Any game that has upsell is perfect in Games Pass. And I mean, I'm not sure if the tech is there for such an advanced graphical game.
Series X can't run it
on Xbox, but yeah. Mate, that'd be kind of cool, and I'd 100% get back into Hearthstone again. If I could just like hop in a party with friends and duel each other or play online with each other and stuff like that. Hearthstone's a fucking excellent game.
Yeah.
And if they could do a thing where you can carry over your decks because of your Blizzard account, which is now technically your Xbox account, you can link it with your Microsoft account. I can keep all my cards, where I spent £500 on. That would be also excellent.
Yeah. Well, I've
Um,
seen a lot of people talk about that because you know how obviously Xbox has been trying to go to PC to like moderate success, but the Windows launcher, from what we understand, like fucking sucks. We don't use it, but
it's
like
a
I
bit
hear a
poopy.
lot of complaining about it, despite a couple of reworks. Do you know what Blizzard has? The Battle.net launcher, and that's something I
Mhm.
have used in the past, and I've had really good experience with. Like I said, my like frame of comparison isn't that good. Everybody raves about Steam, but I think Steam's kind of meh. So like I'm clearly not like
Mm.
wise on this, but you know, if they just like dumped or fused like the Windows launcher with the Battle.net to how it is, you know, and then they like just put all the stuff on that storefront, and then you know, like you say, you know, create
Yeah.
that sort of cross play and that account integration with the Xbox ones, and you know, you've got yourself like a recipe for success.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it isn't all about the game. Sometimes it is about just like the linking of accounts and cross-platform and stuff like that. Like that's so cool. Um, and now that I think about it, I genuinely think like Hearthstone's actually up there for one of my hypest things. If they could somehow get that onto Xbox, I
Mm-hmm.
think that'd be actually be really really cool. Which is weird to say, it's just a card game, right? But like people are like, it's a mobile game. It's like, well, it's not. It's actually awesome.
Yeah.
And then obviously, yeah, World of Warcraft. Obviously, it's quite the ordeal hopping into that right now, especially if we've never played it before. Like, my God, I feel like their games had more expansions than games I've completed. But it would be quite daunting, but I definitely give it a go. I've always kind of wanted to, so it'd be kind of cool to get like a port of that. You know, there's so much potential, and then don't even get me started on Diablo. Like, what's happening with that? Like, is the next one going to be exclusive?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, I
It'd
think
be kind of fucking big.
yeah, it would be, but this is kind of the thing. I think you know it really does depend on what comes first. Like, is the deal going to close, or is Overwatch 2 or Diablo 4 going to come first? Because I do genuinely think if
I think the deal will close
if the
first.
deal closes first, I think we've got a real conversation about Overwatch 2 and Heroes of the Storm being exclusive.
Heroes of the Storm.
Hello?
Well,
No, Diablo 4.
technically you're not wrong.
Yeah,
But
sorry, yeah, Diablo 4.
Diablo 4.
I'm looking at Heroes of the Storm at the moment, so yeah. Yeah, I think we do have a real chance of that happening, which is obviously kind of huge. But you know they'll want to get ahead of it in terms of the marketing, so everybody, so it's crystal clear. This game's only coming to Xbox and PC. You better get an Xbox.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. And I think you know this is where I was coming with this next was Heroes of the Storm as another Blizzard IP, which is something I have dipped my toes in before in the past, and I know is like generally thought like even though it's not on the upper echelon of MOBAs, it's like critically
Yeah.
very well received. Like it's got an 86 on Metacritic. Came out in
Mhm.
2015, and I remember like when I had tried it, it had some really interesting character designs, like in terms of like how they play. I think it was this one where one of them was like a two-headed ogre, and two players would control them instead of one, so you'd have one less player on the team.
That's
But
hype.
two of you would play one, but they're obviously like fucking like a raid boss.
Yeah.
So I just thought that sort of stuff was really experimental and really interesting. And you know, we've been speaking about this idea of having like a platform fighter, like in the sense of you know because Xbox has so much IP, they could have like the next Killer Instinct have like Chief and Marcus and you know like the Dragonborn and well now they've got Heroes of the
Doom
Storm,
Guy.
the Doom guy. They've got Heroes of the Storm that already has like Heroes of the Storm has like Genji and Tracer in it, for example, already. You know
Yeah.
if this got like a big overhaul ported to console, and also look at this, Chief and Doom guy are characters as part of this now. Um, I think that could suit this kind of integration really well as well. So yeah,
Oh yeah, for sure. Are you talking about literally just? You talk about Microsoft having Killer Instinct as their platform fighter and having just a roster of characters to it. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, like in the future, you know, supposedly there is a Killer Instinct 2 in the works right now, but yeah, like it's just having that access to more IP. Like, yeah, just make it a Killer Instinct game, and then like you know, Mortal Kombat games too, just add Xbox IPs to it.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. That'd be sick, mate. I'd love to see some of those characters inside of a fighting game.
Yeah,
For sure. And I think Killer Instinct's actually the route to go as well. Um, I think Killer Instinct being, you know, the fighter, that everyone goes to, that everyone knows is exclusive for Xbox and stuff like that. I think that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
I like Killer Instincts.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really think of any other IP right now. I think we've covered most of them in terms of the ActiBlizz stuff. I mean, Warcraft, I guess, is another popular one, but from what I understand, they did like a remaster of one recently, which really sucked. Have I remembered that right? Do you recall? Because Warcraft isn't Warcraft like another RTS kind of thing.
I'm not. No, I don't really know too much about this.
No, that's fine. And I like that we're not even, talking about what they've got in development. Like Blizzard. I didn't know this because when we spoke about the teams in our reaction video, like how many teams are under Blizzard. Blizzard have like 5 teams. But they're just called Team 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Like they're just numbered instead of having names. So it made it quite hard for me to like get my head around that. So, and obviously like one is Overwatch, one is Hearthstone, one is Heroes of the Storm, Overwatch, and I'm sure they're working on other stuff as well, but I think that is a very, very exciting prospect as well. All unannounced stuff, possibly going exclusive. Or I say, and I need to clarify this every time I say it. When I say, "Oh, it's exciting that it's going exclusive," what I mean is, it's exciting that it's coming to Games Pass and getting optimized for my console of choice. Like, I'm not excited that nobody else gets to play it. I like, PlayStation doesn't get to play it. I'm just excited that it comes to Game Pass and gets optimized for my console. So, soz.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I guess, there's a big thumbs up from me for Philly. Yeah, I think he says some really, like, bold stuff on, like, Twitter sometimes. It's just like, yeah, we're gonna, like, allow you to go through IP, and it's like, thanks, Philly. It's like, what's on everyone's mind? He strikes me as a guy who always has his finger on the pulse kind of thing, It's like what everyone's talking about, and then he always, like, has something to say about it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he kind of understands how these things have an impact on gamers' lives, and what people are thinking and stuff like that. I'm sure he kind of gets that. Yeah. Philly's a gamer. He knows what he's doing.
He's a gamer. He is. We all know.
He's a fucking gamer.
I saw this. It was really funny actually. I saw this tweet that was it showed Phil playing Call of Duty Vanguard. Like straight after the acquisition, and somebody was like, "This is the equivalent to like testing your new car after buying it, like test driving it after you buy it."
Yeah, was he upset? Was he just like, "What the fuck?
What have I done?"
Yeah, we've got some work to do.
I want a refund.
Call of Duty Vanguard is not it's not the best card.
No. Okay. In the wake of the acquisition, we also had some news that Sony's market share dropped by 9.6%, which is the equivalent to $20 billion, which is such a rip.
Like, well, Philly could probably just chuck over a quick 20 bill and get back on track.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, lads. Here you go.
Sorry about that. Nothing personal, hard feelings. Which is, obviously crazy, and it speaks to, I think it's funny because when we speak about like the console wars, which obviously like it's dumb, but there is like a financial element to this, and I think everybody needs to understand that even though Xbox clearly view themselves as like fighting on a different league than what Sony is, like by making a acquisition that's the same as their net worth, shareholders still see competition between PlayStation and Xbox, and like when this stuff happens and shares fluctuate, it's clear that there's still like pretty fervent competition here, and so acquisitions and these exclusivity deals, as much as they can suck for a lot of people, like it's still important. Clearly,
I mean, yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I don't really know what to how to follow up with that, but yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know. It's kind of hard to see it from Sony's point of view, I guess, and stuff like that. Like, I wonder, like, because of the drops in that, like, why do you think that all dropped? Like, is it like, what do you think people were like thinking when they saw Xbox do something like that? Do you think it was literally a case of just like, this is David versus Goliath. Like, this is looking a bit grim, or is it? And it's just like, I mean, these things always happen. Like, it fluctuates so much when big things happen like this, and then it stabilizes again. You kind of see it all the time because people panic when stuff like this happens with the initial impact of it, and then the aftermath kind of settles. But
yeah, I reckon this was a big head in hands, oh fuck moment for a lot of the execs at PlayStation, like without a doubt. But I guess I'm more speaking to the wider point of like we view certain moves by these big companies as like sometimes petty or sometimes like fanboy, you know, like we've spoken and we will speak about this more, like, you know, the angle that Sony takes with these timed exclusivity lockups and the angle that now Xbox is taking with just straight acquisitions, you know, and you know, we have this kind of like moral standing on it of like, oh, you know, I don't think that's okay, I don't think this is okay. And you know, ultimately I think this sort of stuff shows that the people who you know, have access to all of that money do agree that this stuff is important, you know, whether you like that or not, you know, that is kind of the fact of the matter, you know, and that's just me, you know, again, this is just me trying to be consistent because, you know, when we speak about it in a bit, I'll be pretty clear that I don't like Sony's timed exclusive angle. I think it's really stupid. I think it's really unfair, but, you know, at the same time, as if I'm sure there's other PlayStation podcasts out there that are saying the exact opposite. You know, doing timed exclusivity deals are very, very fair because it doesn't lock stuff down entirely. But, you know, buying stuff is just swinging your weight around unfairly, you know, for a large company, you know. So that's all. It's just me trying to acknowledge and, you know, think that, you know, the shareholder perspective very much does see this kind of these, what we view as fanboy moves as actual market moves, you know, regardless of how we frame it in kind of a you know, fanboy or not way.
Oh yeah, for sure. And yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people that argue the way that Xbox and Microsoft are doing it is actually a little bit more toxic, and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. There's just something. There's something about an acquisition and, like you said, throwing your weight around and blah blah. We just have it. We own it now. Fine, whatever. But like, there's just something about timed exclusives that just feels it just feels so weaselly, dude. I just feel like there's like just like a knife in my back that's constantly being twisted, and it's like a carrot dangling, right? Where like something like an acquisition is just boom done. You know, buy a PC, Xbox if you want this sort of stuff in the future. Fine, it's set in stone. But the way Sony does it, it's awful. Like, there are so many times where I'm like, oh, this is the year for Final Fantasy VII for Xbox. And I'm like, no, it's not. All right, this is the year for Final Fantasy. No, it's not. It's just like, just stop. Like, stop dangling the carrot. Just give it a yes or a no, for fuck's sake.
Exactly. And that's very much the approach I would take as well. And I think, you know, a lot of people have kind of like noticed, or, you know, I say a lot of people, a lot of like Xbox outlets have noted that there does seem to be discrepancy with how Xbox is treated on these things versus other companies, you know, in the past. And, you know, the one thing that we can always point to was the absolute shitstorm that, you know, spun up when Xbox locked down Rise of the Tomb Raider for a year. Don't know if y'all remember that, but it was pretty toxic. I mean, I'm going to be clear. I don't think it was a very cool move. It was not chill. that was, I don't like that. Full stop. I don't think it was, whatever money you're throwing to make that deal, not worth it. You know, and I don't like it from a player standpoint either. I don't see how that helps me, and I don't see how that. I don't think it's horrible. Yeah. It's gross. So, you know, just to be clear, I feel like I'm being consistent, but nonetheless, Xbox gets beaten around, still gets to like take shit for that. Whereas this is something like PlayStation rolls off twice a year on major franchises. You know, like Street Fighter gone. You know, like Final Fantasy VII Remake gone. The new Final Fantasy gone. You know, like you could argue there's different like dynamics at play when we're talking Persona from Atlas, because Atlas are hesitant to put stuff on Xbox, but we don't fully know the dynamics of that. But I would be surprised if PlayStation didn't have a hand in it. So There's that, and then like Nier Automata took ages as well. So there's loads of these like huge names franchises, even existing franchises that have a history on the Xbox platform. That it's just like, sorry, we're going to have it for a year at least, and actually, it's probably going to go on and on. And don't even get me started, because I don't even think that's as bad as doing timed exclusivity on content in games, like the old school Destiny stuff that they did. Sony have been like hyper aggressive with this, so I'm a bit fatigued with the kind of idea that Xbox are being like overly aggressive. It's like, I don't think that's the case at all. Like back in the day, exclusivity and time exclusivity has been around for a while, before the 360 days. A lot of people of our age and like maybe older than us will remember the 360 days of 30 days exclusivity on COD maps. 30 days.
Yeah.
Not 12 months. Do you know what I mean? So like it's such a like
it's come so far.
Like it's to the power 12. Like, do you know what I mean? It's 12 times as bad. So it's so much more aggressive, like so much more aggressive. And like, we're not just talking DLCs, we're talking full games. And like I said, I have a real problem with taking content out of games, because then you're paying the same amount for less content, and that's absolute horseshit. So like, I think that's really dubious, and I'm really surprised that that's just something that's just happened and we've all moved past it like it was an okay thing to do. But
the whole Destiny 2 thing, with like exclusive content for PlayStation was just, I mean, in my eyes, that's genuine robbery. Like, I am paying the same £60 price tag as you, but I get less. Like, how is that fair? It's like me going into a shop and ordering like a sandwich, and this guy, we both ordered the same sandwich, and I only get half, but I pay the exact same as him, but he only gives me half a sandwich. It's ridiculous. Like, I hated that so much.
Yeah, and exactly. It's not because it was anything huge. Like, it ended up being like a couple of guns, like a number of maps, a couple of arm pieces, which were nice. It added to the variety for sure.
Strikes.
But, strikes as well. So it added to the variety, especially for a game that was a bit bare bones for a while. But it's more the principle. It's like, really, you should charge me £5 or £10 less, and then let me buy it when it actually comes out. Because I don't understand. Especially because they kept renewing it. Like, this is what was the absolute like bullshit of all of it. Like, you would pay this, like, if you got it in 30 days and you paid full price, okay, it would still be a bit rubbish in principle, but at least you get it in 30 days. I'm likely to still be playing it then. A year later, probably not. 2 years. The Hawk Moon was held back for like 2.5 or 3 years. Like, what is that? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
That's half a console gen.
So like, it's for one game. Yeah, it's insane. And I remember, because when we actually got it as well, like, it had like some serious changes in like the sandbox as well, and just wasn't even the gun it was when it first launched. So we basically just got a piece of shit.
Yeah.
It was just like, great. 2.5 years later, it's in our hands. So, like, very rare that anyone would still be playing a game in 2.5 years, but we were addicted to Destiny. But yeah, it's just, by that point, the game has changed. The whole sandbox has changed. It's not the same as what it was when it first came out on that console. But
absolutely,
yeah.
But
that stuff is just worse than a straight up acquisition, in my opinion.
I think so.
It's so much more ratty.
And I think it's so much worse than just a regular timed exclusive, even though timed exclusivity is still shitty. So yeah, there is that whole argument about that. So yeah, and it doesn't exactly, in the wider scheme of things, if we're ignoring for a second kind of this is just a gaming industry thing, I'm not like massively in favor of like big companies or big industries doing stuff which the competition has no hope of being able to do anything about. Just in the sense that they were only able to do this because they're that big, and that's really it. But like we've seen the ins and outs of the story. We've seen that ActiBlizz approached them, and we've talked about kind of like the opportunity cost here of like, well, the alternative was EA, which or like, if it was Ubisoft, I really can't remember the details, or Take-Two, whatever. I of this to go to all publishers we've said this before about Bethesda. I feel like Xbox is the best to go to because you've got more platforms, you've got the most affordable choice, you've got cloud, you've got Games Pass. And Xbox tends to be pretty good about the contracts of this stuff, so I reckon you won't see any exclusivity for at least a couple of years, if there is any, in the long run.
Yeah.
So, there's that angle as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of brings me to my final point on this topic, which is competition. Now, I've wanted to touch on this for a while because I guess it's more of like a like a philosophical standpoint, or I guess economical standpoint. In that, I remember about 4 years ago, maybe longer, 5 years ago, back in like 2016, maybe when Xbox was at its roughest point, there was a lot of discussion around exclusives and exclusivity, just in general, not even timed, even though that was part of it, because Xbox was getting stomped, essentially. And a lot of people said, well, it's competition. Competition is good because, eventually Xbox will bounce back and that's what is good. Even though we know conversations were being had, like Xbox was on the chopping block at that point. So now here we are, 5 years later, and the competition has brought about more aggressiveness in exclusivity, more aggressiveness in timed exclusivity, more aggressiveness in acquisitions from everyone. Sony's sweeping up people, Xbox is acquiring major players. So I guess my question kind of is like, when we're like definitively making the statement, competition is good for everyone. Like, who's everyone exactly? Who are you talking about? Because Xbox buying Bethesda and Activision Blizzard is not good for PlayStation owners. Arguably, Switch owners is arguably like some of those games aren't going to make their way there anymore. So I guess it's just kind of reevaluating that standpoint because I think sometimes it's used as a lazy, escape.
Yeah, exactly. It's
so that we can't have a conversation about how some of these moves can be bad.
It's good in certain contexts because like a Bethesda acquisition, people would just be like, oh well, that's gonna spur Sony on to make an acquisition of their own and get some hard hitters their end. But then, but then if you do look into it deeper, you start to think, well, they can't really because they're not, like you said, they're not on the same scale as Xbox and Microsoft. Like they can't fight back and just start splashing 10 billion, 20 billion and stuff like that like Microsoft can. So it's just like, that's just a straight L for Sony and PlayStation users. There's no like, oh, this is benefiting both sides because Xbox bought Bethesda. It's not. It's cucking one side and making one side better. Yeah. Like there's no beating around the bush there. But it's kind of hard to say. I think competition is good in smaller ways. When it comes to big acquisitions and deals like this, I don't think there's such a thing as it benefits both sides. It's too large of a piece to benefit both sides when you're talking things on a scale of this. I don't think that phrase exists when stuff like this is going on.
Right, yeah, and that is just kind of the nuance to it, really. That it's competition isn't. Okay. Could you argue there's a net benefit for the consumer in the long run? Like, yes, I think that is probably fair, and I would probably agree. But when you look at the nuance and the things within that, that's not to say it doesn't come with cons as well. And sometimes I think people disregard these moves that we've long spoken about, whether it's just exclusivity in general or like time exclusivity or acquisitions, whatever it is. There come significant cons with that, and I like sometimes the area that your competing company that you're like buying products from, the area that they try and improve in to fight for your money might not be an area you care about. And just to, like for a really just explicit point, if Sony went and bought timed exclusivity on the next Monster Hunter, there's nothing Xbox could do that would make me feel better about that. Like, they could go out and acquire like Rockstar for the next GTA, like huge play. Wow, that's not Monster Hunter. Like they go out and acquire like a Gearbox for Borderlands 4. Well, it's not Monster Hunter. Do you know what I mean? So like, it's not like this whole tit for tat. It's not the same. So that's kind of
it differs. it differs for every consumer, right? We all have our different favorite games, favorite franchises, and stuff like that. Like some people, like there was someone in our friend in our group chat on WhatsApp who was literally just like, what's the big deal with this whole Activision Blizzard thing? Because he doesn't play any Blizzard games. He doesn't play Call of Duties. Like he doesn't play any of that. So he was literally just like, I don't really care. Great. Like what's the big deal here? So like it really differs for everyone, right? And yeah, you make a really good point. Obviously, Monster Hunter is our favorite franchise probably ever, right? And if Sony made a move on that, like you said, there's nothing Xbox could do to soften the blow for that. Like if somehow World 2 was an exclusive, I would do something very drastic. I don't.
Right.
I would be so upset.
I would swallow an orange whole.
Yeah, definitely.
At
More
least
drastic than that. maybe pineapple.
Yeah,
but
so,
yeah. So
that's just all it is, man. It's just I just think like we need to be able to have a conversation outside of competition is good, because then like it's clear when Xbox make these moves, it pisses people off. So like, is it or isn't it? Because like if you are subscribing to the belief that competition is good, full stop, then that's what Xbox is doing. No. You know, and like also this is something that's like been poked for like a decade now. Xbox has been like regularly mocked by not only consumers but by media outlets, by Sony themselves, and here they are, they're biting back. So like competition, right? Like this is great, but you know, like you said, you know, it goes back and forth and it depends what we're talking about. So you know, essentially my hot take is competition isn't always good. It can be good because and it also depends who you're talking about. It can be good for some people. You know, also, you know, on the flip side of this, you know, we've seen competition before drive teams to absolute exhaustion and burnout and fatigue, you know. So like, who is this competition good for? Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's good for shareholders and CEOs from a business perspective. It's good for like the right demographic of players from a player perspective. So it's like, that's all. It's just, I think this needs to be a more nuanced conversation than just competition good, because clearly people are getting pissed off with the way Xbox are approaching this. And you know, if we're going to use the competition, the same argument that people used 6 years ago when PlayStation had their foot on Xbox's neck, competition is good, then we could just hand wave it like nothing was happening. But it's clearly more complicated than that. So that's all. Yeah, that's all he says after just chatting about it for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you make a very valid point. It's absolutely true. It goes way deeper than that. There are so many sectors to it and so many different angles. It's not just consumer, and even if it is just consumer, it's still not competition good. Like, and that is the only way people think of it, and it's still not right without factoring in anything else.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It reminds me of that scene at the end of the Joker. But spoilers for Joker if you haven't seen it. You know where he pulls out the gun and he's like, "You get what you fucking deserve." Just like blows his head off. Yeah. Like it's how it makes me think of like the whole competition thing. It's like you've poked the bear for like 6 years, man. So here we are. And your love for capitalism, you know, competition. So here we are. All right. So, you know, sort of pivoting off the topic a little bit, is this kind of idea of like going, you know, multiplatform? How is this going to work? What's going to be multiplatform? What isn't? We know Phil put out like a statement before saying, you know, oh no, it wasn't Phil actually. It came from someone else that, you know, they're likely going to make some exclusivity, but some stuff is going to remain multiplatform. We had a conversation about this earlier in the week about, you know, essentially copying the framework they've taken for Bethesda, in that stuff that's already multi-plat will probably stay there, and stuff that's out in the future that's new is likely going to be exclusive, barring a couple of outliers. Because the only the big comparison here is Call of Duty to Minecraft, and obviously Minecraft has been kept across the board as multi-plat. So, a Sony spokesperson this week said the following: "Try not to piss yourself." Quote, "We expect that Microsoft will abide by the contractual agreements and continue to ensure Activision games are multi-platform." Close quote. I smell fear.
Yeah. It's literally just like a straight up like guilt trip. It's like they're just trying to guilt trip us.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be a dick, but this is so funny. Like after like the years and years of berating Xbox, the whole sharing games thing. I know this was a while back and under different leadership, under different conditions, but you know what I mean. There has been an overall general mockery from Sony towards Xbox. Even if you look at E3 stages, like the comments there were all jabs. But then now this is like the space supposed to be like, pretty please, can we keep Call of Duty multi-platform? It just fucking made me laugh, dude.
Yeah. I kind of read that and chuckled a little bit as well. It's just fear, isn't it? It's just straight up.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just quite funny.
It's just a funny quote. Yeah, it doesn't go much further than that, but like, it's, obviously there is like a legal side to this in terms of the, they're talking about contractual agreements. So, in the same sense that Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo were tied up in a contract and Xbox respected that. I'm sure this statement is referring to that rather than, saying that all ActiBlizz games should be kept multi-plat, out of some principle. I'm sure that's what it means, but it still reads like a bit of a plead. Because as you'll see a bit further down in my notes, like I've got a note here that would suggest that Sony would lose $260 million a year if Call of Duty goes exclusive. So it's such a substantial chunk of money if that was to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, so I guess sort of following on from this, Phil, we had a tweet from Phil earlier in the week, which I don't know if you saw, which said, and I quote, "Had good calls this week with leaders at Sony. I confirmed our intent to honour all existing agreements upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Sony is an important part of our industry and we value our relationship." Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. The way he's phrased that. Yeah, our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation.
It's a bit of a chin
I mean,
stroke,
the whole...
Yeah.
All existing agreements, fine. That's fine. That's stuff like you said, stuff that might already be in the works and stuff like that. They're not just going to just cuck it, burn the contract and be like, oh, what contract? That's fine. But it's the whole desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation does kind of give the impression that they don't plan on ripping it from the platform for future releases, which is kind of, I don't know, it is kind of a shock, I guess. But I don't really know, because there is a benefit of keeping COD on PlayStation, right? COD sales on PlayStation is still money inside, our pocket, because we own the studio making the games, right? If it's selling fucking however many copies it is on PlayStation, it's still benefiting us. Sure, it's not forcing people to come over to our platform, buy our hardware, and only play it on that. But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a good guy move. I mean, Philly's such a good guy.
He's a nice guy, man.
It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It is kind of a shock to me, to be honest.
I mean, I don't think this tweet is as revealing as we think it is. Like, because you kind of read it and you're like, oh wow, that's a COD's going to be kept like multiplat, and then you read it again and you're like, huh. And then you read it again and you're like, I don't know.
Desire to keep does kind of make me think it's a continuation, right? It's future Call of Duties. That's what he's referring to. That sort of phrasing makes me think that it's not just this year or next year's Call of Duty, and then the rest will be exclusive. But I don't know.
Yeah, but it's just funny. Like, make no mistake, this is a very carefully thought out tweet. I'm sure it's been run by like lawyers and advisors across the board. And I imagine this was kind of done to just calm everyone down and the shit. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if Sony called them up and was like, can you just put out a statement for us, because our shareholders are shitting themselves and like our stock is dropping. So can you just like put a stop to that? Yeah, because like you said, that sentence, I confirmed our intent to honor all existing agreements upon acquisition of Activation Blizzard, and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. So is that just in regards to the existing agreements,
Current.
or is that for future? Like, there's a reason he hasn't said Call of Duty is going to be multi-platform as long as we own it. Like, there's a reason that it wasn't that explicit, and the reason I think that is because he doesn't want to fully commit to, because they'll still be crunching the numbers. Fully commit to an outcome.
Yeah. I mean, it's still very muddy water, isn't it? I still think they're figuring it out as well, to be honest, to an extent. So it's kind of impossible to tell. But yeah, the way they worded it, you really could interpret this in any way possible, right? Which is why, like you said, it is quite carefully worded. Because to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, if fucking Vanguard stays on it, or if this year's Call of Duty stays on it, or Warzone stays on it, technically that's still keeping true to that statement, right? Yeah.
That was my thought as well. Like we said earlier in the week, like with the theory that Warzone would stay multi-plat because it's already an existing game, but the future franchises would be exclusive. Like you said, that doesn't contradict that statement at all. So, so you read it for the first time and it sounds very definitive, but then you start thinking about it, and you're like, actually, this doesn't tell me much more. And like I'm still under the impression that eventually, I don't know when, because we're talking, I think, many years down the line, that mainline COD entries will become exclusive. I am under that impression. And I could be wrong here, and it might be more of a Minecraft angle where they decide it's too big to go exclusive. But my main point of comparison for this is that Phil has essentially confirmed that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be exclusive, and I just don't see. Okay, COD is bigger in that it hits more numbers, but let's not pretend Skyrim isn't still selling like hotcakes 10 years after release. And that's huge. And like, if they're going to make that, that's my main reason for thinking that at some point it will go exclusive. And my reason for thinking it won't be soon is because not only is it going to take a while for this deal to close, so they're going to still have these CODs on a yearly treadmill. They need to figure out like the PR angle of it. So like for this year, obviously it won't be affected. For next year, the next COD is still going to be on that treadmill. So we're maybe looking at 2024. If they do decide that this is the way forward, it will be 2024 at least. Maybe at that point they've decided take 2 years for this COD. So maybe we're looking at 2025. So I think eventually that will be the case, but I don't think it'll be anytime soon.
Yeah, for sure. I think it will definitely take a couple of years for the dust to settle and for the next mainline Call of Duty to be an exclusive, for sure.
Yeah.
I think we agreed on that when we talked about it earlier in the week. It's never going to just be like, oh my god, I can't believe this year's Call of Duty is not going to be on PlayStation. No, I think you still got a couple of years. But yeah, there's. I personally see it as there's no reason why we wouldn't. And when we've done just massive plays for other IPs and just absolutely outright saying they're exclusive, there's no reason why we can't do the same with titles and IPs under Activision Blizzard, right? When we got the likes of Fallout 5 and Elder Scrolls 6 being only on Xbox, they're almost just as big as you can get, aside from Call of Duties and stuff like that. So it's very carefully worded. It's impossible to tell. Really, we're still guessing, just like we were when the acquisition first went through.
Yeah, for sure. And like I say, there are still some enigmas in like how Microsoft operates with exclusivity. Sometimes, the mind. I always understood the angle of keeping Minecraft multiplat. What I never understood was not making Minecraft Dungeons exclusive. Like,
that was weird.
And that, I don't know, because that's like in contradiction to like because then you could say maybe on franchises where there's a main app on multiplat, they won't make spin-off apps exclusive. But then you look at like Elder Scrolls Online or Fallout 76, like from what we understand, that's going to be there, and then the spin-off, you know, I know it's not spin-off, but the next entry in that franchise would be exclusive. So, you know, it's like they're not opposed to that. So, you know, there is definitely wiggle room here, and like inconsistency, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. But that would be my take, that we will get there eventually in terms of mainline CODs going exclusive, but I don't think it will be for a long, long while.
No, I agree.
Cool. Okay, well, I've just got a little footnote here because this did get buried. I think we did touch on it. Maybe we didn't. I can't remember. But that Games Pass has hit 25 million subs, which is like finally like they've been waiting on news on the sub front for a while. I mean, do you have anything in particular to say about that number?
It's big. It's a big number.
Yeah.
I think I remember reading some articles on it, and I think that's up from about from January last year, because they did the figure in January. I think January last year we were at 17 or something, so it's risen 18, by about 8 million. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's risen by 7-8 million over the course of the year, which is pretty healthy growth.
Yeah.
And we haven't even had any of our major. I mean, obviously we've had Halo Infinite. Sure. But we still got some big hitters to come, which will be console sellers and Games Pass subscriber sellers, like 100%. So that number's only going to get bigger and bigger as we move into late 2022 and 2023. Mate, with what's coming out at the end of 2022 and what's lined up for 2023, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a January figure next year of probably like 40 mil or something.
That's quite a spicy take.
I could see. I mean, if it rose by like 7 or 8 with what's come out between now and then, and what we have lined up, I think January next year, I don't see a reason. I mean, you definitely see a similar growth, if not more. Maybe like 10 mil, maybe like 35 million.
Yeah, I think 10 mil is probably a good projection. And I think it entirely hinges on their E3 showing.
Yeah.
Like we know there's a lot coming. Like obviously Starfield and Redfall and like maybe one or two other exclusive indies are like confirmed
clued up
for this year. But for 2023, we've got like vague ideas, but like nothing's been officially confirmed for 2023. Like we estimate like Hellblade, Forza this year as well, but maybe Forza gets pushed next year. Who knows? You know, we know there's like Hellblade for next year. We know there's like maybe the Coalition's next game.
Avowed.
We know there's Avowed. That's right.
Fable.
Possibly Fable. Possibly the Outer Worlds 2. You know, we do, but because none of it's been confirmed, you know, your casual gamer or even your less hardcore is going to be unsure. So if they come in E3 fucking swinging, which I think this year was going to be like a big hitter. Last year was very good. I think this year's going to be crazy. And that's not even like discussing any stuff like unknown stuff, a contraband as well for next year, like stuff that we don't know about from either Blizzard or Activision or Bethesda. Like who knows? If that's a killer showcase, I think we see a lot of conversions by next January. That gives 6 months for the general public to understand what's coming in the next year, and then for a Starfield bundle at Christmas.
Starfield,
and then like look at all this library that's coming out from 2023. Then I think if that all goes to plan, I think we're looking at probably a 10 mil growth.
Yeah,
which is
that's our predictions.
Bang.
We'll come back in a year's time and see.
Get it in stone. Yeah, I think I saw, I don't have the exact numbers to hand, but I remember I saw a comparison with how like Netflix grew, and Netflix has been around since like 2003 or something. It's been out for a while, you know.
Yeah.
And the growth on that was like really slow. It took like 10 years to get it to like, you know, 5 mil. And obviously it picked up around sort of the teens, like 20 teens. But essentially the comparison was showing how much quicker Games Pass is growing compared to Netflix, which you would somewhat expect because Xbox was an existing brand. So is Netflix. I know they did rentals and everything, but not exactly the same scale. But nonetheless, the speed of growth was very, very good by comparison.
Yeah.
So we will see. It's good to have some numbers for that because it has been a while. Alrighty. What have we got next? My notes are loading really slowly.
Banjo-Kazooie on Switch.
Excellent. That was weird. Kind of came out of nowhere, and honestly, didn't really see much reaction to it online. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, this game. I feel like people have played this game quite a few times. I mean, it's made its way over. It was in Rare Replay, wasn't it? I'm sure it was.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
I'm sure it was. So, people have played it again on consoles of last generation and stuff like that. Now they're just playing it again on Switch. It's kind of cool. I don't think it's that crazy. I love Banjo-Kazooie when I was a kid. It was a game I played loads when I was growing up.
Yeah.
This doesn't shock me too much.
I think what's kind of weird about this is
it's the whole
Nintendo Switch Online
partnership.
Well, that as well,
Nintendo
but it's part of the. I mean, I don't know how this works. Presumably you can buy it separately, but it's coming to the expansion pack, which still is a shit deal. But
okay,
whatever. But yeah, no, you are right. I think
it's
go on.
No, Karen.
As you say, the more the actual interesting part of it is that Xbox have allowed Nintendo to use Banjo-Kazooie to get it on its essentially home platform or whatever. Which makes me think there must be a tit for tat coming soon. Because Xbox has been very gracious with Nintendo. They've been quite chummy for a while. Getting some games there. Cuphead, Ori comes to mind. And as far as I'm aware, those things are often pushes from the devs. The devs are we want to make this for the Switch. But nonetheless, these are not things that Phil has to greenlight, and they still come off as favors to not only the devs but also Nintendo. And then things like sharing Banjo-Kazooie for Smash and now the actual games. It makes me think that there must be some I wonder if Xbox are asking for anything in return. I guess is maybe it's the GoldenEye thing. We spoke about GoldenEye a while back. Maybe because from what I understand, there's a complete IP and publishing fuckery with who that belongs to. So maybe if that is true, maybe it was that just get a remaster of the old version on Xbox and Switch. Who knows? But yeah, just thought it was a funny thing.
Actually, yeah. I mean, they have been chummy for a little while. Xbox and Nintendo, and you can't help but think there is something brewing in the background. There was. I mean, I remember ages ago we were talking about the whole is Games Pass gonna somehow make its way over to Switch and have its own sort of combined platform sharing thing with Switch and stuff like that, because we have been very chummy with them. But I guess only time will tell. But it's definitely quite interesting. I think that's the most interesting aspect of it.
The sort of the strategy and the business standpoint of it is all a bit funny. Okay, that's fine. So I mean, I think because there probably is a conversation to be had about Games Pass appearing on other devices, but I think we have spoken about that before, and I think there's probably a better time that's not today, so we don't bleed over 2 hours. Because I expect there will be a. Do you remember when Bethesda got acquired? They did a Xbox Bethesda roundtable, and then I imagine a similar thing will happen in the next 6 months, maybe even longer. Maybe when the deal comes closer to closing, where they do an Xbox ActiBlizz roundtable and they have that conversation. If Phil says the same sort of thing where he says, expect all these games to come to places where Games Pass is, and then we have to have that whole conversation again. So yeah, we'll probably come around to it then. But other than that, mate, that's everything from me. Is there anything else you want to go over today?
No. I think we've covered everything. So that's all good to me.
Excellent. I have a
I'm
really bad
done.
hangnail right now.
Deuces. Oh, dude, those are the worst.
It sucks.
I hate those. Is it on your thumb or is it on your index finger?
No, it's on like my my ring finger on my right hand. Is there a name for that finger?
I hate those. The ring finger?
Yeah, because that's like on your left
It's
hand.
just your ring finger.
But like, do you just call it your ring finger? Because it's not. Because your ring finger's on
Yeah.
your left hand. But it's on my right hand.
No, you can have your. I think you can. That's just considered the ring finger. You can just have your ring on left or right. It doesn't have to be specific to right or left. Like if I ever get married, I would wear my ring on my left ring finger.
Yeah, it's on your left-handed.
This one. Yeah, but some people would wear it on their right.
But that's not your ring finger. Okay, we're going to call it there. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. We'll catch you for episode 41. If you've stuck with us this far through 40 episodes, you fucking rock. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video. That would be awesome. And come follow us on Twitter. I make really funny graphics sometimes late hours in the morning when I'm very tired. Thank you. Good night.
He does.